Welcome, everyone. One of the best ways to prepare for the IELTS speaking test is to see it in action. That's exactly what we're doing today with this complete mock test from Spinta. As you listen, think about what the candidate does well and where they could improve. Afterwards, we'll compare notes with a full performance breakdown. Let's begin.
Good morning. My name is Miss Carter. Can you tell me your full name, please?
Good morning. My name is Liam O'Connor. People usually call me Liam only. I came from a small coastal town, and I am living now in the city for work and study. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are you from originally?
Well, I am from a town called Ballymore. It is by the sea, and it has these kind of narrow streets and old houses. I lived there until I was 21 before I moved here, so it feels like home in many ways. The sea was always very important for my family, because my father was a fisherman and my grandmother. She also told lots of stories about the harbor.
Do you live with your family now?
No, I live alone now in a small flat near my university campus. My parents still live in Ballymore, and I try to visit them every few weeks when my schedule allows it. It's a bit difficult sometimes because of work, but we keep in touch by phone and video calls, and we have a family group on messaging app.
Let's talk about your accommodation now. What kind of place do you live in?
I live in a one-bedroom flat on the third floor of a modern building. The flat is not very big, but it is comfortable. There is an open kitchen, and the living room gets a lot of light in the morning, which I like, because I often work early. The building has a small gym and a bicycle storage, which is useful because I cycle to work sometimes. I think the area is convenient with shops and a market close by.
What do you like most about your neighborhood?
I think what I like most is the sense of community. There are local cafes where the owners, they know regular customers by name, and when you walk, people say hello. There is also a park nearby where I go jogging at weekends. Compared to the quietness of Ballymore, it is more busy, but in a good way because there are always events or small markets on Sundays.
Now I would like to ask about your studies or work. Are you working or studying at the moment?
I am doing both, actually. I work part-time as an assistant project manager at a small environmental consultancy, and at the same time I am studying for a master's in urban planning. It is a busy combination, but I find them complement each other, because the work gives me practical insight, and the course gives more theory and critical thinking.
Why did you choose to study urban planning?
I chose it because I was always interested about how cities are designed and how people use spaces. Growing up in a coastal town, you see how important planning is for protecting communities from flooding and for keeping character of places. Also, after working a bit, I realized I wanted to influence policy and create better public spaces, rather than only doing technical tasks, so the master's felt like a natural next step.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
What I enjoy most is the variety. On some days I visit sites and meet with local residents. On others I help prepare reports or liaison with local authorities. I like that there is a social aspect as well as technical problem solving. One particularly satisfying moment was when our team found a cost-effective solution to improve a small park, and the community, they were really pleased and used it more afterwards. That felt rewarding.
How has your daily routine changed since you started this job and study combination?
My routine become more structured, I would say. I wake earlier now, usually about 6:30, to fit in a short run, and then prepare for the day. I used to work later in the evenings, but with classes and deadlines, I try to allocate specific time slots for study. Weekends are sometimes for catching up, but I try to keep Sunday free for family calls and rest. It was more flexible before, but this organized schedule helps me to manage both roles.
Do you have any hobbies or free time activities?
Yes, I have a few hobbies. I really like photography, and I often take my camera when I go walking. I also enjoy cooking. It started as a way to save money, but I found it relaxing and creative. Sometimes I try recipes from different cultures and invite friends over. Additionally, I volunteer with a local community garden which connects to my interest in urban green spaces.
How long have you been interested in photography?
I have been into photography since college, so maybe 6 or 7 years. It began with a cheap digital camera, and slowly I learned about composition and light. I can't say I am an expert, but I enjoy experimenting, especially with architecture and street scenes. Photography also makes me look closely at places, which feeds into my planning studies.
What kind of music do you listen to when you cook?
Oh, I listen to a mix. If I'm trying a new recipe from, say, Italy, I might play some classic Italian songs, but often it's indie or folk music that helps me concentrate. Sometimes I even watch short cooking videos for inspiration while preparing ingredients.
Do you have plans for the future, maybe career plans?
Yes, I do have plans. After the master's, I would like to work full-time in urban design or policy, ideally on projects that improve public transport and green infrastructure. In the longer term, I could imagine working for a council or international organization focusing on sustainable cities. I also hope to continue photography as a hobby and perhaps publish a small book of urban images one day.
Thank you. Now we will move to part 2. I'm going to give you a topic. You will have 1 minute to prepare, and then you should speak for about 2 to 3 minutes. Here is your topic. Describe a public place in your city that you like. You should say what the place is, what you do there, who you go with, and explain why you like this place. You have 1 minute to prepare. Please start when you are ready.
There is a place I often go to, which is a riverside park called Greenford Quay. It is located not far from the city center, along a small winding river, and I began to go there during my first year of university. The park includes wide paths for walking and cycling, benches under trees, a small community cafe, and an outdoor amphitheater where sometimes local musicians perform. On Saturdays there is a farmer's market which I really enjoy. When I visit the park, I usually go alone with my camera, because I like to photograph the reflections in the water and the old brick bridges. Sometimes I meet a friend or two, and we walk together and then share a coffee from the stall. I also volunteer occasionally with a group that plants seasonal flowers and maintains a small herb garden near the cafe. I like this place because it is a calm oasis in the middle of busy city life. The atmosphere is relaxed, and there are always different activities, from yoga classes in the morning to film nights in summer. For me, it represents a combination of natural space and community activity, which reflects what I hope cities can be like. I remember once I spent an afternoon there talking with an elderly man who had lived in the area for decades, and he told stories about how the river used to be neglected. Seeing the improvements over time made me proud to be part of small changes. It also helps me to clear my head before study or work, and sometimes the photographs I take there are actually used in a local planning blog or in class presentations to illustrate good public space design. So overall, it is a simple place, but it has a real meaning to me and to the neighborhood, and I think it shows how modest actions can have big impact.
Thank you. Can I ask, how often do you go there, and has your relationship with the park changed over time?
I go there about once or twice a week, depending on my workload. At first it was mostly for photography, but over time, as I got involved in the volunteer group, my connection deepened. Now I feel a sense of stewardship. Where previously I was a visitor, now I think of myself as partly responsible for keeping the space welcoming. The more I learn about how small improvements help biodiversity and social life, the more I want to contribute.
Have you ever introduced someone to the park?
Yes, I often bring friends or classmates, especially when the market is on. I remember inviting a colleague who had just moved here from abroad, and he was surprised to find such a calm place near the center. He said it made the city feel more livable, and he started to come frequently as well.
Now we will move to part 3. We'll discuss public spaces and community more generally. Do you think public places are important in cities?
Yes, certainly. Public places act as the social lungs of cities, providing space where people from different backgrounds can meet, relax, and interact. They are important for mental health because access to green or communal spaces can reduce stress. Also, well-designed public places can support local economies by attracting visitors and enabling markets and events. There is a civic function too. They offer areas for demonstration, celebration, and cultural exchange, which is essential for a healthy public life.
In what ways can governments improve public spaces?
Governments can improve public spaces by prioritizing funding for maintenance and inclusive design. It is not only about building new parks, but also about ensuring existing ones are safe, accessible, and welcoming to all ages. Engaging communities in the planning process is crucial because residents often know best what they need. Policies that encourage mixed uses, such as spaces for markets, play, and relaxation, help keep areas active throughout the day. Also, investing in public transport to connect neighborhoods means more people can access these spaces.
Do you think digital technology affects how people use public spaces?
Yes, technology has changed patterns. On the one hand, mobile phones and apps allow events to be organized quickly and can provide information about activities, so they help attract people. On the other hand, they can lead to more solitary behavior, where people sit in a park but remain focused on screens rather than interacting. However, technology also offers opportunities for smart lighting, interactive installations, and better maintenance through reporting systems. It is about balancing benefits with the risk of reduced face-to-face social interaction.
Are there differences in how various age groups use public places?
Definitely. Younger people might use open spaces for sports or social gatherings and are drawn to vibrant, flexible spaces. Middle-aged users often prefer safe pathways for walking and areas where they can meet friends or watch children play. Elderly people frequently value quiet seating, shade, and accessibility features. Therefore, inclusive design should consider a range of needs so public places can serve multiple ages simultaneously.
How does culture influence the design of public spaces?
Culture shapes how people expect to use space, the kinds of activities that are common, and the aesthetic preferences. For example, in some cultures, open markets are central to daily life, and spaces need to accommodate stalls and vendors, whereas in other places, a plaza for events might be more important. Cultural festivals, religious practices, and local traditions also influence seating arrangements, circulation, and landscaping choices. Planners must be sensitive to cultural patterns to ensure spaces are appropriate and well used.
What challenges do cities face when creating new public spaces?
One big challenge is competing land use and cost. Land in cities is expensive, and there is pressure to develop for housing or commercial space. Convincing stakeholders that public space has long-term value can be difficult. Another issue is maintenance. Many projects are built but then neglected due to lack of ongoing funding. Social challenges like safety concerns or political disagreements about the use of space can also impede creation. Finally, there is the need to balance diverse needs and avoid gentrification that can push out existing communities.
Do you think private companies should be involved in managing public spaces?
Private companies can provide resources and innovation, but it must be managed carefully. When companies sponsor parks or plazas, there is a danger of over-commercialization or restricted access. Public-private partnerships can work well if there are clear agreements about inclusivity, long-term stewardship, and community involvement. Ideally, the community should retain a say so that spaces remain public in the fullest sense.
How might climate change affect the planning of public spaces?
Climate change makes resilience a central concern. Planners must consider flood mitigation, cooling strategies like tree planting and permeable surfaces, and designing spaces that can cope with extreme weather. Public spaces can be multifunctional, for example, combining stormwater retention with recreation areas. There is also an educational role. Visible climate-friendly design can help raise awareness about environmental issues among citizens.
Finally, what advice would you give to someone designing a new public square?
I would advise engaging with local people from the start to understand their needs, creating flexible spaces that can be used for many activities, and planning for maintenance from day one. Use native planting to support biodiversity and think about connectivity so people can reach the square by walking or cycling. Also build in simple, durable features rather than overly complex installations that require constant upkeep. If possible, pilot temporary interventions to test ideas before committing to permanent change.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the speaking test.
The candidate demonstrated Band 7 level performance. Notable grammatical errors included saying, "If I would have known, I would went there," when a correct form would be, "If I had known, I would have gone," and saying, "My routine become more structured," when it should be, "My routine became or has become more structured." There was also a small preposition slip saying "interested about" instead of "interested in." These errors were occasional and appeared mainly when the candidate used more complex or conditional structures. They did not prevent understanding. Fluency was generally strong with natural flow and only minimal hesitation such as "I mean" and short pauses when shifting ideas. There were a few self-corrections like "sorry, what I mean is," which showed good repair strategies. Vocabulary range was wide and appropriate with words and phrases like biodiversity, mixed uses, stewardship, multifunctional and permeable surfaces, although there were moments of slight imprecision when choosing prepositions or verb forms. Grammatically, the candidate handled complex sentences well, linking ideas and giving examples, but showed weakness in perfect and conditional forms and occasional article use. Overall, this performance merits Band 7 because the candidate spoke at length with clear organization, a wide range of vocabulary, and only occasional inaccuracies in grammar and pronunciation, which did not impede communication. What prevented a higher score were the systematic slips in some complex structures and a few imprecise word choices under pressure. To reach the next band, the candidate should focus on accurate use of perfect tenses and conditional forms, practice precise prepositions and articles in context, and maintain the existing fluency while reducing minor hesitation markers. Thank you for practicing with this IELTS speaking mock test. Visit Spinta for more comprehensive mock tests and personalized feedback to boost your IELTS score.